Hey guys, hey everybody. Mike here. Welcome to Hobby Hotline episode number whatever. I don't even know how many episodes we're into, but Tuesday night edition. I am here with Chris, who has muted himself for some reason, and
There we go.
Logan, King NASCAR. We are here for another episode. As always, guys, in the chat, we can put the link down for anybody that wants to join in. You are more than welcome to do so. Come in and talk to us about the hobby. And what do we want to talk about first tonight, guys?
Oh, I think it's
Logan,
the elephant in the room.
The elephant in the room, you said earlier.
Yeah,
Big $7 million elephant in the room, I think, right? Is that how much it went for?
Yeah,
I think
7.2.
7.5 or something.
7.2 with buyer's premium, I believe.
Yeah.
$7.2 million.
For a prospect card. For a minor league issue.
You know, they said that card belonged to a kid that he originally had that back. He was a paper boy for, I think, the Baltimore News.
It's not even a true.
Huh?
Chris, you were locked up there for a minute.
Yeah. Okay.
It's all right.
All right.
Yeah, well, I was saying 7.2 million for a prospect card. You know.
And it wasn't even in a real product. It was like thrown in a newspaper. Jet. Of course, this was 1914 was when it came out.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, did they? I don't even think we really had packs of cards back then anyway.
Yeah, it was very different.
Times were different, but let's play a little game of what if for a moment. If prospect cards as we know them now existed then, how much would, like, I don't know, a 49 or 48 Bowman Chrome of Mickey Mantle go for, do you think?
Interesting idea.
If it existed.
I think he would go for big money, you know, knowing the
5,
timing of the hobby.
10
million?
I'm just throwing it out there.
I mean, who knows? I mean, you're right. It's a game of what if for sure. I mean, but like I said, you know, given the appetite of some of these high end collectors, man, you know, those cards could go, you know, something like that could go pretty expensive.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I mean, I look at the REA auction and cards that I was going after went for way above recent comps, and so I didn't buy anything. I bid on 7 cards and ended up basically getting priced out on all of them. But then there's cards like the headliner, right? The card everybody thought was going to be, you know, a 10-figure or 8-figure card, kind of doesn't. Although 7.2 million is a lot of freaking money.
7.2 million is a lot. Yeah. I mean, we're saying it as this, though this is a bit of a disappointment that this didn't go for 10 million as some people expected it would.
Yeah, there were a lot of predictions early on saying this was at least a $10 million card, and a lot of folks were thinking maybe it might even surpass the Mantle.
Yeah, I'm glad it didn't. I mean, if you look at it, it doesn't even really look like a 3. Like, I'm like, who graded this a 3? You know, it's
that
really
thing is
not
in bad shape, man. It's got creases and paper loss and rounded corners. It's not in good shape at all.
Right. I think it's overgraded. But a card like that, there's not enough of them to the numerical grade is almost irrelevant, right? It's just such a rare card. But I do think that the lack of it got a lot of attention, right? Everybody was talking about it.
Oh yeah.
I do know who bought it.
Are you allowed to tell?
I'm not allowed to tell.
Can you tell us off the air?
Yeah, I'll tell you all off the air.
Okay, that's cool. But let me ask you guys this: do you think that, given today's climate of trading cards and the way that prices are going down, do you think that this was the right time for them to sell that card? Do you think they left money on the table? Do you think if they had waited, they would have got more? I mean, what do you think?
Well,
Well,
let me answer this question with your question. Ziggy says, "Why mention that I know?" And I'm saying that let's just say they got it for way cheaper than they expected to pay for it. So they were thrilled.
Exactly.
Still an absolute crap ton of money. There's a handful of people that would pay that much for a baseball card, but so it's interesting.
So I mean, so do you guys think that it could have gotten more if they had waited? I mean, what do you think?
oh yeah, I think would have gotten more had they waited. But how long do you want to wait?
Yeah,
And
And wait for what?
you need the money now. And maybe this person is selling it because they have to sell it, or maybe if they're selling it for tax purposes.
Yeah, you're right. It's hard to say. I mean, it's all pure speculation.
So
And
I
I
didn't
think
know this.
Logan, when you said, "Is this a good time because the hobby's going down?" I think we need to put things in perspective for something. That there are a certain number of what I call tent pole cards, like this one, the T206, or anything T206, the 52 mantle, those kind of cards. They're we got to separate them from the rest of the hobby. So when you say the hobby's going down a bit, yeah, it is kind of going down a bit, but these tentpole cards will always command a big price from someone because there's just not that many of them out there, and these are cards that people that are desirable. So
Yeah, but that's the exception and not the rule, though. I mean,
yeah, it is the exception. That's what I'm saying. I mean,
right.
So
this is a fair point that Mike's making. Does the sale impact any of us? Not really. And our, what is it? None of us we're in the market for that card.
No,
I don't know what audit he's talking about with Michael Rubin or whatever.
me neither. And they are historical artifacts, not just cards. Yes, correct.
I agree with that as well.
Totally. But overall, the cards I was watching were selling, 34 Gaudy Gehrig, for example, was the highest in that grade, highest price I've ever seen in that grade. It was a 1.5, and it sold for way more than 1.5 normally sold for. So,
so a lot of cards you were seeing were over comps, huh?
Yeah. And that's not surprising. I think a lot more eyeballs are on auction houses now. It's just becoming a more trusted avenue to buy cards. It's been that way for a lot of us for years, even decades. But I think the general population is kind of catching on to REA and Golden and Mile High. It's like, oh, that's a good place to pick some stuff up, and so you're just seeing more eyeballs on that. And
yeah, that's very true. Because everybody knows I collect NASCAR cards and racing cards, but I'm able to find still right now pretty good deals on Golden, REA. Whenever they're selling like maybe a nice Lewis Hamilton or Dale Earnhardt senior card or something like that. So they hadn't caught up completely yet, for at least for me, but I think in the general baseball market and like the big stick and ball sports, it probably has.
Yeah, it seems like it. And that's good for the hobby, bad for the hobbyist. It's kind of, it's harder for me to get deals. I used to get crazy good deals on auction houses, and I loved it. You know, I really enjoyed that, finding that stuff and being able to get it for a good price, you know.
Decent price, yeah.
And that just feels like it's evaporating quickly, those opportunities. Not that they're not there at all, but
Well,
let's
that's
talk.
what happens when you're growing the hobby.
Right.
So be careful what you wish for.
When you're 10xing the hobby.
10
Yeah, like
Yeah.
what Eric said, 10x.
Eric, 10x. 10x.
Hey, Eric.
Everybody's best friend, Eric. We got Orlando here saying hello, everyone.
Yo, Orlando.
Let's see. So, Chris, you went to the Philly show last weekend.
Yes, I did.
Would you call it busy?
For a Friday, I only went Friday, so I was not there over the weekend. I got there around 3. The doors open at 1 on Friday, and it's kind of the same thing with Chantilly, where on Friday, if you want to get in first thing, they charge a premium. It's $25 in the door at 1 o'clock, but after 3, it's 10. So, and it's a 2-hour drive from where I'm at anyway. So I really didn't feel like paying the $25. I got there at 3. Crowds were okay, I suppose. Not as busy as it was last time. The last Friday I went. Decent mix of dealers. Lots of old faces that have set up there since it was back at the Fort Washington Convention Center. A lot of new money, a lot of new dealers as well. Lots of chrome, lots of graded chrome. But, you know, the Philly show is kind of like Philadelphia in and of itself. It's kind of a no BS kind of town, you know. A lot of the nonsense that you might see at other card shows, you really don't see in Philly. So it's been about a year since it's moved to the current location in Oaks, which is about, I'd say, 5 miles north on 422 from where it used to be, which was at the Valley Forge Casino. It kind of outgrew that facility, and the Oaks facility is really nice. It's probably where it should have been all along, in my opinion. So all in all, I think it's the best regional show in America now. It's been going on in one form or another 3 times a year since the 70s. You see the same dealers, the same collectors that I've seen for really dating back to the 2000s when I started going regularly. And if you're not from the Philadelphia area, it's really, I think it's the second best show in America right now. And it's one of those shows that you really ought to go to at least once if you're not from this area. So better than Chantilly, says Ziggy No. I want to say it's close. I mean, I'm from where I'm at in Delaware. It's roughly about the same drive to Chantilly and the same drive to the Philly show, and it's now run by the same promoters now. It's the same promoters that are now taking over the National next year, by the way, East Coast Sports Marketing. And yeah, you have a lot of the same dealers that set up at the Philly show that also set up at Chantilly. I think the Philly show is a little bit bigger, maybe by about 10 or 20 tables. But I think as far as best regional show in America, I think Philly and Chantilly are like 1 and 1A now. So if you like Chantilly, you'll like the Philly show.
So I think since the pandemic, really, I think we've seen this, I guess, movement towards traveling for shows, right? Once Dallas reopened and it became a destination show to go to, well, there's nothing else, let's go to Dallas, kind of thing. And then it became where over the last few years, I've been to Chantilly, obviously the National. I've went to the Burbank show this year in February. I'm planning on going to Strongsville in April. So, and the Philly show is definitely one of those that's on my radar of wanting to go to. Do you guys think that trend has died down to where people are more content just staying nearby, local shows, or is there a drive to go to these shows and make them a destination?
That's a good question. I wanted to go to the Dallas show, the last one they had, but my finances just couldn't support that. So I'm thinking the economy is going to play into this a lot right now, as far as where people go for shows. I'm kind of happy with our show here. I don't even go to Little Rock or Nashville for a show, so I don't even really travel very much anymore for shows. But I would like to travel. I would like to go to the Philly show. I would like to go to the Burbank show. There's a lot of shows. Chantilly. I'd love to go to all those shows. Maybe one day I'll make it. It's just not in the cards. No pun intended for me right now.
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, there were a lot of shows that kind of sprouted up during the pandemic and afterwards. I know in Philly, there's now a second big show, the Fishtown show. But a lot of these newer shows are kind of more newer money. So there's a lot more slabs, a lot more new stuff, a lot more chrome stuff, a lot of basketball, a lot of a younger demographic that goes to that. It's a little different than the Philly show or the more established shows. I still want to get out to Dallas one time. And I still want to also get out to Burbank just to see what it's like out there. I do a lot of traveling. Like a couple of weeks ago, I went to the Toronto Expo. This weekend, I'm going to North Carolina for a show. But a lot of that's drivable. I still haven't been able to convince myself that I need to get into an airplane in order to go to a card show yet. So
I do, we just had the Dallas show about a month ago was the most recent Dallas show. And it was very low attendance in terms of compared to last year or the year before. Certainly, I think some of the, mystique of it's wearing off. You certainly don't see a lot of guys coming in town for it. You don't see a lot of guys running around with cameras and camera crews and all the things that kind of perpetrated the hobby. But to me, the Dallas show is very ho-hum now. It's kind of been there, done that, got the t-shirt. I've been to so many of them that it's making me itch to try Strongsville and Philly, and I'd rather go somewhere different where I can see some different, like you said, Chris, same old dealers for you, but they'd be new to me. Right. Yeah. And so you probably feel like about the Philly show, like I do about the Dallas show, when you're there and you can go to it whenever you want, especially the Dallas show, which is 6 times a year. Like I skip several now every year, 'cause I'm like, yeah, why would I go back and see the same stuff? Basically nothing will have changed. And so I'm much less inclined to I'm more inclined to want to travel, like, hey, save up, go to a destination. And the other element that certainly matters to me a ton is when I hear that a bunch of buddies are going to a show, buddies of mine in the card community, that, hey, we're all going to go to Strongsville. That makes me want to go even more.
Yeah.
Yes, the cards are great, but to be able to see, or somebody's coming to the Dallas show that's traveling here, then I'll go because I want to hang out with them, not because I expect to see something different. You know what I mean? So that element plays into it.
And that's another reason, why I go to Toronto every year is that, first of all, I need some Tim Hortons. All right. Tim Hortons, double and a honey cruller. All right. I think all of us Americans could use some Canada in our lives. And seriously. And second of all, I like chatting with all of my internet friends from Canada that go there. Guys like David Wright and Stephen LaRoche, although Stephen wasn't there this time. And I also like going to a card show that has a meat table on it. So at the Toronto show, there's always been this French Canadian guy who sets up his table with like pepperoni sticks, summer sausage, hard salamis. And this guy makes out like a bandit. He may do the most sales of anyone over there. Meat guy.
That's hilarious.
So
it is hilarious. I see I've got a question from Dan. He says, if I had to pick between a race or a card show, same day, same price, which one would I pick? It kind of depends on the race. Like if it was the Daytona 500 and there was a big show, I would probably go to the Daytona 500. If it was Talladega, I would probably go there as well. I guess I would probably pick a race over a card show, because I can go to a card show anytime. The race, that's only ever going to happen once. There's only going to be that one unique experience that you're going to have at the race. Like when I went to the Daytona 500 in 1998 and Dale Earnhardt won. That's the only time he ever won a Daytona 500. So yeah, I would definitely pick a race over a card show for sure.
Just out of curiosity, Logan, do you think that in conjunction with a big race weekend, that not necessarily a card show, but like a NASCAR collectibles expo that sets up near the track, do you think something like that could work?
It used to work back in the late 80s, early 90s when the heyday of NASCAR cards, when we had that going on. Like when I went to the 1992 Hooters 500, which was Richard Petty's last race, there was a card show at the I think it was at the fairgrounds close to the track, and there were some Hall of Famers or soon to be or future Hall of Famers there. I bought a lot of stuff there. It was great. I mean, there was a ton of people there. It's just not like that anymore. They do have souvenir trailers, but that's just souvenirs. It's not really what I would call a collectible. But they used to have shows like that, Chris, back in the day. It's kind of like what Formula One's done now. Formula One's exploded. It'll eventually even out.
I'm getting a question from Mark. Mike, have you come down from your Rangers high yet? No. I have not. I'm going to enjoy every ounce of it. Probably for as we win the next 3 or 4 World Series in a row.
Oh boy, listen to you.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, win one World Series and I get all cocky, right? Yeah. No, I'm enjoying that. That was a top 10 moment of my life, honestly, which is, I don't know if that says more about my life than anything, but I've been waiting for that so long. And I'm not the only one. Obviously, any fan base that waits a long time to get a championship is going to enjoy it and, really relish that. So are there car shows Logan, that like if you were to say, hey, there's three shows you can pick three shows that exist currently that you wouldn't normally go to but hey, all expenses paid, you don't have to pay any money, that you would want to go to, what would you choose?
I'd like to go to the expo in Canada. I think that would be cool. Where's that in? Is that Toronto?
It's just east of Toronto. It's near the airport.
Yeah, I'd like to go to that. I wouldn't mind going to Burbank for sure, because I've heard good things about that show. The Philly show or Chantilly. So those would be probably the ones I would pick, especially if somebody else is paying for it. I'd love that.
Yeah, a show you haven't been to before.
Yeah, I've never been to any of those shows.
And that's the fun part about, I mean, shows are great, period, right? But going somewhere different, maybe a different part of the country you've never been to, and it becomes more than just a show, it's an experience, right? So
I mean, that's kind of why I wish that the National would kind of break out of its Chicago, Cleveland, back to Chicago, Atlantic City. Then we're going to go to Chicago for 3 of the next 4 years kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, I think everybody agrees that Chicago's the best place to have the National, but I kind of wish it would go someplace else every once in a while, you know?
Well, my wife would like to go if it's in a place that either A, she hasn't been before, or B, there's stuff to do, right? Like if it was in Denver or, the LA, San Francisco, they could turn it into, hey, bring the whole family destination, go do this other stuff, make it more than just the card show. And I know there are people that do that now, even in Chicago. They've never been to Chicago. So I've been so many times. My wife has no desire going. My wife certainly doesn't want to go to Cleveland. That's not terribly exciting. So it'd be
Cleveland's really exciting. They've got they've got the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and they used to have LeBron James.
So Chris, what would be the 3 shows that, if money wasn't an object in terms of travel costs and etc., that you haven't been to that you would like to go to?
Okay, I'd like to go to a National on the West Coast.
Okay, which
is probably never going to happen again. I'd like to go to the Dallas show once. And I'd really like to go to a show. I don't even know if they have card shows in Japan or not.
I think they do.
They do, but are they kind of like what we expect?
Probably not.
Card shows to be. No. Just some other country then. Do they have card shows in Europe?
London.
They do.
They do?
Yeah.
I saw Ryan Breakout Cards. He went to a card show, and Ryan Card Collector 2 went to London for the show there. That would be cool. I would do that.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. My wife would love to do that.
Yeah, I mean, Ireland's like number 1 on my bucket list. Ireland, Scotland, England, like traveling. I haven't been over there, and if I could put a card show in there too, it's like, oh my gosh, this is like heaven on earth. I could buy
that would be incredible to see, what kind of collectibles they've got over there. I'm sure, there'd be a lot of soccer. There would be, probably Formula One. There'd be a lot of cricket. There'd be a lot of
weird
cool
stuff that's just we would never find over here.
Exactly.
Which wouldn't that be part of the fun too? I mean, how many more, 62 tops Manals do I need to see in my lifetime? I could see never another one, and I'd be just fine.
You can see him in London then.
That would be cool to see him in London. Actually, that would be kind of neat. Very interesting. I don't know why I got you. You had mentioned the Philly show. Show us some of the stuff you picked up in Philly, Chris. Chris?
So I picked up a lot of 90s inserts. Here's some show and tell. I picked up this really cool 97 Ultra of Big Frank Thomas.
Home Run
Oh,
King
wow.
acetate.
It was about $20. It's acetate, but it has like, I don't know, some holographic. I don't know. Can you see that in the light?
Yeah,
Has like
you
an
can see it.
atomic refractor scalloped holographic. We don't get cards like this anymore.
No.
No. And
And
this
will
is
make
another kind of card that we don't get anymore. This is also from 97 Ultra. This is a Fielder's Choice insert of Kenny Lofton. But the front of it kind of has like a leather-like feel to it.
Faux leather.
Faux leather. And I know they make those real cheesy manufactured relics and tops now that I don't think anybody actually likes. But I kind of wish they would bring material cards, not cards
leather.
that, not
Leather.
game used bat cards or game used glove cards, but cards that are made out of wood or leather like substances like we had 25 years ago.
How much was that? Like $5?
I think this was 10.
Okay.
I think it's like a 2 in every case insert. So
Wow. That's a great
Yeah.
price, dude. Good deal.
now this is a cool card. This is a Griffey. I don't know if you remember
Oh yeah.
98 Epics. Look at that.
They had purples, greens,
Purples, greens, oranges. And this is the season, which is, I think, the third of the fourth scarce tier.
right.
So each player had 4 cards. Play, game, season, moment, I think it was. And look at that.
Dufex in its full effect.
Now, this wasn't Dufex. This was like a different kind of foil on it. But really cool. Set me back almost a C note.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Griffey cards people are starting to buy up all the Griffies. So, and this was a 98 Ultra Barry Bonds insert.
Yeah.
This was a
those are
case
so
hit.
hard.
Die cut, holographic foil. The photo part is actually embossed. I don't know if you can see that.
Yep.
How it's embossed on the back. Beautiful card. I can't imagine how you would possibly grade this, but which is I guess why it's not graded because of all the corners on it. But this was like $35-40. So they're some of my pickups. So
Those are awesome, man. I love,
Yeah.
The 90s stuff is obviously hot. And I was a Juan Gonzalez super collector for a long time. So the Diamond Immortals I had of Juan Gonzalez, but they weren't hard back then. They weren't, you weren't finding them everywhere, but especially once eBay started in the late 90s, for me anyway, that was when I started on eBay. You could find them. And they were relatively cheap. They weren't like they are now, where everybody's
now you can't find him because he's Juan Gonzalez. No offense, but
none taken.
I mean, he did win 2 MVPs, but when you talk about big stars of the 90s, he's kind of been forgotten.
Which is,
I mean,
kind of sad.
Last year I went to a store in Ohio and I found a Juan Gonzalez insert from like 97 or 98 Fleer Tradition. And it was a case hit insert in like a $1 box. I'm like, 20 years ago, that would have been like a $25 or $30 card.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of just shows you what little respect Juan Gonzalez has nowadays. So
Yeah, you showed those Epics cards. I mean, I had the whole rainbow of Juan Gonzalez, all because each player not only had the season, the moment, the crown, whatever it was, they also had each color, right? So,
Yeah.
and all of them had a different, print run. They weren't numbered, but they were, they released the print runs or whatever.
Yeah.
So,
I think the orange ones were the base.
yeah.
These were the
green
base,
one.
but then there was a purple one, which was kind of like the mid-tier parallel, and then the emerald green was the scarcest one.
Yeah.
And this was the card, by the way, that I found in a dollar box.
Nice.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I don't know if you can see this, but this is actually, this oval part is die cut and glued onto a second card, so it's a little thicker. But this was a case hit level insert. $1.
$1.
I'll buy that for $1.
So do you think those
Griffey,
90,
on the other hand, is not a dollar box card? So
do you think like Juan Gonzalez, Albert Bell, trying to think of some other 90 stars that didn't become Hall of Famers.
Bonds, Sheffield
For sure.
Sosa.
Yeah. Well, their hobby relevance is not Bonds. He's in his own world, but
he has his fans.
The rest of those guys are all pretty hobby irrelevant. And
I mean,
kind of sad.
That's what
it is.
I don't even think anybody ever accused, I could be wrong here, anybody ever accused Juan Gonzalez of being a doper.
They did.
It's just that
Canseco's book.
Oh, he did? Oh, yeah. Okay. Well,
Yeah.
There you have it. That's why. It's just the stench of steroids. So
yeah, I mean, he won.
Then again, David Ortiz, didn't he test? Wasn't he outed? No.
Technically, no. A lot of people suspect that he failed one of the when they were doing the testing to determine how rampant it was, and it wasn't released. There's speculation that he failed one of those, but it was never publicly released. But there's plenty of guys associated with steroids that are already in the Hall of Fame, right? Pudge being one of them. He was Pudge, and obviously Bagwell, maybe, kind of like, yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Which is like a guy like Sheffield, who's on his last ballot this year. He won't get in, I don't think, which is, he's a 500 home run guy. To me, he should be in, but so should Rafael Palmeiro. So should McGuire. So should I'm a pretty lenient on the steroids because I don't want to just disregard an entire era of baseball. I think it's pretty sad. Man, we got off on that topic. Thanks, Juan Gonzalez.
Yeah.
You started that all up there. Are there any questions from the audience for us while we're here? Our robust audience of 17 people. We appreciate you guys being here and being a part of the show, but you've got...
we have a comment from U.S. Sports Cards. We should all come up and visit John Newman at Syracuse for the New York State Fairgrounds show. You know what we should do? I'm using like the royal we to describe the entire hobby. About 15 miles north of Syracuse is the grave marker of Jefferson Burdick in a small town called Central Square, New York. There should be a card show in Central Square, New York. Call it the Jefferson Burdick Invitational or something like that.
It's funny that you talk about Jefferson Burdick because I'll show a card real quick. See if you can see this card. It's a 1911 Royal Bengals T68 Davy Crockett. Now you look at it and you're thinking, well, there's what's so special about this card? Well, what's special about it is when you turn over the back. This is a real card that was in Jefferson Burdick's collection back in the day because he stamped all of his cards. You can see right where it says Jeff B right there, and right down here you can see it says Jeff Burdick right back there in the black. So he stamped it twice, and I guess he traded it to somebody or something because he took most of his cards and pasted them in an album back in the day when he donated them to the museum in New York, the Metropolitan Museum. But yeah, this is a legit card from his collection. I need to get it in a PSA holder is what I need to do, but I've had it for a while.
That is so cool.
What holder is that, by the way?
Do what?
Who graded that?
SGC.
It's SGC. It's an old.
It's one of the. Okay.
Yeah.
Old 100-point scale card.
Yeah, but it's a cool card. I found this on eBay years ago. Like I said, it's not one of the ones where you see the paper on the back where it was tore out of the album from when it was in the museum. So pretty cool.
Jeremy's asking, thinking of all the guys you just listed off, do Chipper Jones and Jeff Bagwell get the hobby love they deserve? Chipper does. I think Chipper stuff there's a robust market of Chipper fans out there. He does pretty well. Bagwell, not so much, in my opinion.
I've never met Jeff Bagwell, but from everybody that has met Jeff Bagwell has told me probably the most surly person they've ever met.
Yeah, I bet he's.
Wow.
That doesn't surprise me.
Not a very nice guy.
Single greatest Rangers card of all time, 1972 Topps manager card of Ted Williams is the greatest Rangers card of all. He was the first manager for the Rangers, which a lot of people don't know.
Oh, I had forgot about that card.
That was a high number, right?
Cool card.
I don't think it's a high number. Let me look. Good question.
I don't think it's a high number.
No.
If I number 510. So
it's a higher number.
Higher number for sure, yeah. That's a card I really want to find an autograph version because I have every player that's played for the Rangers. I have a coached or played for the Rangers. It's in the Hall of Fame. I have an autograph of them in their Ranger, a picture, a card or something of them in a Rangers uniform. And I don't have that Ted Williams. That's the only one I'm missing. Eric knows semi-high number.
Yeah.
And Mark agrees with my choice. So just because he's a Red Sox guy, so anything Ted Williams going to agree with. Here's something Orlando's saying. Burdick cards were not pasted in book. He spent his last years carefully putting cards with corner holders.
Yeah, he used I think those corner mounts that they use for stamps.
Right.
Well, he probably did both. He probably started pasting them and then later realizing, oh crap, this isn't a good idea. Right.
Yeah, because I've heard that he did paste some in some like albums or whatever that when he donated those to the museum.
Let's see.
So we got conflicting. I thought he glued them in corner mounts. Who knows?
Whatever.
Does it really matter? I don't know. Yeah. Why are we debating that? Anybody I'm trying to think of. I've gotten into the football season this year just because the Cowboys are just itching to disappoint me again in the playoffs. But, I'm trying to think of guys that have made an impact. And it doesn't feel like there's anybody breaking through. Even CJ Stroud, who's having a really good year as a rookie quarterback in Houston, is not – I don't hear a lot of rumblings about him in the hobby.
Not really.
And, Kenny Pickett's a disaster. Zach Wilson's a disaster.
That
all
whole
these.
2021 class is a disaster.
I mean, isn't Herbert even losing a ton of luster? You know, Burrow's hurt. Like, who do you trust in? I'm a big hater of the football market being so quarterback driven. It just drives me bananas that there are so many other great players in the league that are essentially ignored if you're not a quarterback, and that
Well, that's kind of
drives
what
me nuts.
I mean.
Mac Jones.
It's not just a hobby. I mean, football just revolves around quarterbacks. You know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but you got like Tyreek Hill. You know, he's completely hobby irrelevant. He might win the MVP this year. You know, or in Dallas, you know, CeeDee Lamb, and you know, you've got some good players that just completely hobby irrelevant. Yeah, Mac Jones
sucks.
He does. Kev Bo Jones. Cowboys are going to win it. I like that. I hope so. Okay. Rick is here. He's a 49ers guy. And the 49ers, there's the 49ers and there's everyone else. Like, it's so they are so much better than everyone. They've lost 3 games, but they were missing some key guys. When they are healthy, I mean, they beat the Eagles 40, whatever it was, 42-13.
Yep.
And then they beat the Cowboys 42-10. So they're pretty good. Pretty damn good. He's agreeing. Darn right. They're really good. And Orlando's drinking the Tua Kool-Aid down there in Miami. So, but you know, Hurts is good. He hasn't looked, you know, he's kind of working up with a bad wheel right now. He's got a bad knee. It's kind of
he's done everything well except for last week. He's done enough to win, and that's, you know, good teams win when they're not playing well. And up until last week, the Eagles were winning pretty ugly. I mean, the last couple of games, they didn't look all that great, but they found a way to beat some pretty good teams in Kansas City. And who did they play the week after that? Shit. I forgot.
Here's a great point. Quarterbacks and home run hitters is what the hobby cares about. I've been thinking about, you know, Luis Arias last year was flirting with 400 for a while. You know, there was a lot of talk, a lot of within the sport discussion about, wow, this is pretty amazing what we're seeing from Luis Arias. Hobby dead. He, you know.
Luis who?
Exactly. Or is it not Luis Arias? Who am I thinking? I'm thinking of Arias from the Marlins, but I thought it was Luis Arias. See, I don't even know the guy's first name, I guess. Somebody will certainly correct me in the comments.
Luis Arias, Arraez.
Yes. See, completely irrelevant. Chris doesn't even know who he is.
I know who he is.
Yeah.
It's just that.
Oh, I was right, Luis Arias.
Nobody else cares.
Right.
He's playing for the Marlins.
Sadly true. But would a guy, I'm thinking of the last non-real power guy that's hobby relevant even today, and I would use Ichiro as an example, who is hobby relevant, not really known as a power home run hitter guy.
Yeah.
Orlando says, "Shut up." Who else can you think of that's a non-power guy?
Tony Gwynn.
Is Tony Gwynn really hobby relevant other than his rookie card? Honestly,
not really.
For a while.
Which, by the way, I'm not agreeing with it. I'm just. Yeah, batting titles themselves just don't register. Jeff McNeil won the crown last year. Yeah, the guy Diaz who won the American League this year? He beat on the last day. He sat out and Corey Seager played, and he ended up beating Seager by a point. Not that even if Seager won, that wouldn't have mattered to his cards winning a batting title. If you won 8 of them, it might matter, like Tony Gwynn or something. But
Yandy Diaz.
there you go.
I wouldn't.
Oh, Jeter, that's a
pick
good
him out of a
one.
lineup.
Jeter's a good, non-power guy.
Yeah, Jeter.
That's hobby relevant.
Mookie, although he does hit for power somewhat. Altuve.
Not really hobby relevant, honestly, outside of Houston.
Yeah.
It's weird how we get that fixation of quarterbacks and home run hitters and the hot rookies, and then it's, Juan Soto's almost hobby irrelevant just because he hasn't done a whole lot in the last year or so. That's a good point, Jeremy. There's some very
Oh, yeah.
for sure.
Trust me, I know.
Uh-oh, cousins are on here. Hobby irrelevant equals anyone on the Mets.
One on the Mets.
Good point. We're down to our last few minutes. Any other topics you guys want to discuss or bring up?
It's
been a slow hobby news period, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of want to do a little show and tell, if you guys don't mind, real quick. Something. It's kind of Christmassy. Just want to let you guys know that on the PSA set registry there is a set that you can collect, and I think it's called A Christmas Story Ralphie's Collection, and it's actually, like I said, it's a real live set you can collect. And for those of you who don't know, in A Christmas Story, there's a scene where Ralphie is laying in his bed and he's dreaming about his BB gun, and above him on his headboard there's 3 cards, and those cards have been identified, and I'm going to show them to you real quick. This first one is a 1940 play ball John Rucker card. That's one of the cards that Ralphie has. I want to say Mikey. That's not going to be right. Then he had a couple T206s. He had a T206 of Ed, I believe that's Rulebach. That's how you pronounce his name. And then there's a third card, and it's Jimmy Hart. And those are the 3 cards that are on Mikey's headboard. And I think Beckett did a story about that years ago, so you might want to go look that up. It's kind of cool. I mean, since it's Christmas time and everything, I thought I might bring that up.
Now, that's not the Mouth of the South Jimmy Hart, pro wrestling manager. That's
No,
19th century baseball player named.
back in the 70s, Jimmy Hart lived down the street from my sister's boyfriend here in Memphis. So that was pretty cool. We actually went down to his house a couple of times and kind of hung out. It was before he got famous.
Well, awesome. We don't need to just sit down here for 6 more minutes just for giggles. So if we don't have anything else to talk about, we can let everybody get on with their evening. And I appreciate you guys being on. And thank you, Logan. Thank you, Chris.
All right.
All right, cool.
Keep rocking in the free world, man.
All right. Keep collecting. We'll see you guys later. Be good.